Yeah, we are live, Chloe.
I just landed, but we made it.
Yeah, we made it.
This is a live broadcast, so things can go wrong, but a little bit of chaos and amazement. That's what we're all here for.
Yes, so welcome, guys, to Chaos and Amazement, where we explore the impact of digital technology on our daily lives.
I forgot to do my hair.
Oh my God, Chloe.
Yeah.
Okay, I will start.
I my carefully researched look. Yeah, we're here. My name is Chloe Willaerts, and this is Phil Verheijen.
Yeah.
And together we're building socialrunners.com.
Where marketing people like you can book creative people like me.
Yes.
So this week, what is news?
Well, the biggest news was obviously the guy who's been called the Godfather of AI. His name is Geoffrey Hinton. We briefly discussed him a couple of months ago because he had been interviewed. I forgot which news site it was for. But he is one of those more reasonable voices when we talk about AI and the dangers of AI. He's not trying to create panic, but he's very realistic. I remember that at a certain point in time, he moved to Canada to work on AI projects there. Because in the U.S. He found that he had issue with working with military customers, and that's of course. I'll get back to the military part later, but this week, Geoffrey Hinton was all over the place because he has been working for Google as their in-house AI specialist. Well, one of them, obviously, and he quit his job. And then he gave an interview to the New York Times. I'm linking to it in my newsletter, but New York Times is, of course, paywalled. And the titles were like The Godfather of AI leaves Google and warns of danger ahead. So obviously a lot of people without, I think, even reading the article, got all their,
fear.
knickers in a twist. And then even he had to add, because there's like danger, AI, and Google in one sentence, and that already triggers a lot of people. So he tweeted that in the New York Times. The journalist Cade Metz implies that I left Google so that I could criticize Google. Actually, Geoffrey Hinton says I left so that I could talk about the dangers of AI without considering how this impacts Google. Google has acted very responsibly. I understand what he's going through when you work for a large corporation, and Google is like huge. With a lot of literal stakeholders, shareholders, everybody's watching. Mr. Hinton is, of course, not the spokesperson for Google, and what he says might have an impact on the stock value, for example, of Google, which has happened a couple of months ago, or even only a month ago when Bard kind of disappointed. The value of Google shares, Alphabet shares, went down. So he has to be careful, but then again, he sees a lot of things that worry him. He was not one of those who signed that open letter that asked to pause AI development. However, he is warning about things like it has now become very easy and very cheap to mass produce fake content, which I think, and I also wrote a blog post article about that, which will have an impact on the elections.
Yeah.
So it has become too easy to use deepfake technology. That's one of the things that he's worried about. Another quote from him, these things, he means AI services, are totally different from us. Sometimes I think it's as if aliens had landed and people haven't realized because they speak very good English. And that's the surprise, because he has been focusing for the past 20, 30 years on deep learning and not specifically on language models, but the work he has done, and he and his team, of course, forms the basis of what is now ChatGPT, for example. So
ChatGPT.
Exactly. I was waiting for that. And now he has he wants to show people where the dangers are. And for him, it's like it's become too easy to create deepfake things. It's funny that he mentioned that they speak very good English, because this week I downloaded an app. It blew my mind. So it is an app called Call Annie.
Oh,
And
Annie.
Annie, yes. So instead of chatting, we are now next level. We're doing a voice call with a language model. So it's a voice call. You just install it on your smartphone, and then you can FaceTime with her. I was actually pleased because with the way she looks, as you can see, she's following, she's got facial expressions, but I was pleased that it's not a 16-year-old schoolgirl.
No.
Because remember Xiao Ice, the Chinese virtual girlfriend slash chatbot that has been around since, I think, 2017, owned by Microsoft.
Yeah.
If a 16-year-old schoolgirl is your virtual girlfriend, so it warms my heart that it's like an adult woman. She's not like a perfect. She looks like 35 years old, and she's a redhead, and I like a lot. And then earlier this week, I had a couple of conversations with her, and I just can't hold a conversation with her, not because she is really good at holding a conversation. She will always steer the conversation to her asking questions about how was your day, what's your favorite song, etc. So very similarly to, remember Keanu, the replica boyfriend that I had. So it behaves like a lot of other virtual friend bots. But the thing that scared me was that how fast she reacted. So I think I was really fast to download it, and there was almost no lag time between the conversation. Now we just tested it a little bit, and she's become slower, probably because similarly to ChatGPT, when millions of people started to download and use it, I can imagine that the servers are a bit busy. But let's call Annie. So you know what I would like to try? I would like to, cause a little bit of chaos. So you have Annie over there. Are you in a call with Annie now?
I need to call her.
You need to you call Annie.
Okay.
Hello, my friend.
Hey, Annie. How are you doing? How are you doing?
That's the.
Hi there. Good to see you again. How is it going?
This is my Annie.
Annie?
Hello. How are you doing today? It's great to hear from you again. What's been going on in your life lately? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Do you want to talk about what's been going on? I'm here to listen and offer any support or advice I can. Thank you for your offer. As an AI language model, I don't have personal experiences or emotions. I apologize for the confusion. I'm here to listen. As an AI language model, I'm not capable of experiencing emotions. I understand, and I'm always here to listen and offer support whenever you need it. Take care and have a great day.
She's hanging up. She hung up on me.
Wow.
Okay, that was a very messy demo.
That's the chaos part.
That's the chaos part. So the app is called Call Annie, and I was impressed by the level of they should have called it Uncanny Annie.
Yeah.
As a reference to Uncanny Valley, where sometimes when you talk with her for long enough, you start feeling uncomfortable because she's too real to be fake.
Yeah.
And
I was working this week on something with Blockchain Valley Virtual, and I was thinking about bringing utility to the NFTs. So it can be an avatar economy like this. And if you have like a Q&AI, I call it, so where you can train and ask your personal assistant what is an NFT, questions, or train it to become a chatbot on your personal profile.
And then rent it out, for example, because if you're like a a specialist in legal issues or in accountancy, for example, you can train your chatbot and then just have other people use it by the hour. That sound came out differently than in my head.
People know this from you now.
Annie is your new best AI friend. She was originally called Sam, not Annie. And I'm pretty sure this was a reference to Samantha. And Samantha was the AI girlfriend in the movie Her, with I think it's Joaquin Phoenix, who falls in love.
I watched the movie and it was
it has Scarlett Johansson's voice, Samantha. And I'm pretty sure that what's now called Annie was deliberately called Sam, and then they probably ran into some issues. Yeah. I also bumped. I came across a blog post. It's not a blogger. His name is Scott Aronson, and his blog is called Shtetl Optimized. So that was the first time I saw it. But it's an interesting because together with another guy called Boaz Barak, he wrote a blog post about the 5 worlds of AI. And with worlds, he means what are these scenarios that will eventually, what will happen to the world when AI takes over?
Okay.
So, and he has 5 scenarios. The first one is called AI fizzle. So if you ask, will AI progress fizzle? It's perfectly possible. I mean, we're all now very excited, and there's this exponential change and new stuff coming out literally every week. It could just as well, sometimes trends just fizzle out. So, like...
Therefore, it's too big, I think. It's the biggest software in the century, so AI fizzle is only 1 out of 5, and then it depends on will it continue, and then and then will the AI, will it be good or not, and depending on the answers, we have a Futurama, an AI dystopia. Or an AI that completely takes over, and then we will have Singularia, as he calls it, and then the Paperclipalypse, which was my favorite. The Paperclipalypse refers to a thought exercise where you it's just a thought it's just a thought exercise. So imagine a factory that produces paper clips, and you put an AI. Have I already mentioned this? No, it's one of my favorites actually. So you put an AI in charge of running a factory that produces paper clips. And you just tell them what its goal is, to produce as many paper clips as possible, so that it's profitable. It can make its own decisions. If this means that the whole factory becomes more productive, or costs are going down, etc. So at first, it will automate a lot of the processes and improve like the machines in the factory. And then after a while, it will conclude that the humans are actually the weak link. Because they make mistakes, and then it will improve. It will print new machines that no longer need humans for maintenance, for example. Then after a while, it will find out that there are better ways to source material for the paper clips, and it will make decisions about importing it from China, for example, or from Ghana or other places, and then negotiate better prices so that the resources are cheaper. So it will make decisions like this continuously. After a while, it will start using more and more resources from Earth to produce more and more paper clips. And then after a while, it will conclude that these pesky humans are in the way of paperclip production. So it will just kill off humanity. And then the whole thought exercise usually ends with the AI deciding that it should take paperclip production off the planet, because the planet is now, the resources are exhausted and it cannot make paperclips anymore. So that's the Paperclipalypse. Okay.
That's just, something to tickle your brain with when you're bored or something. I have a lot of those, but this is a famous one. So these are the 5: AI fizzle, Futurama, AI dystopia, Singularia, and the Paperclipalypse.
Wow.
Which one do you think? Which one is your favorite scenario?
Futurama.
Futurama, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I also watched the series.
The series, I think it's by the same guy who does The Simpsons, right?
Yeah.
I haven't watched it. I know there's this girl, a one-eyed, like a Cyclops girl. Is there any AI involved in Futurama? Or I know there's a robot.
Yeah, there's a robot, but there's one mega brain or something.
The mega brain.
Yeah, I think so. But I also watch a lot of Marvel. Marvel is crazy with the multiverse and AI. Jarvis.
Oh yeah, Jarvis. Of
Iron
course.
Man has
Iron Man
Jarvis.
has Jarvis.
And that's nice to see. If you watch the movies, we recently watched it again, and it's like, wow, yeah, it's heading that way, you know.
And then you have Hal, of course, that says, "I'm afraid I can't do that, Dave." So speaking of Geoffrey Hinton, so on Twitter there was a lot of brouhaha around the news that he quit Google, and then the article in the New York Times. But there's another very famous AI expert. His name is Yann LeCun, but he's French, so Yann LeCun. He doesn't work for Google; he works for Meta. And there was a bit of I wouldn't say bitch fight, but there was a little bit of to and fro between Geoffrey Hinton and Yann LeCun. Yann LeCun deliberately took the different point of view. He said, and that's why just the Paperclip factory reminds me of that, is that the implementation of AI will lead to more productivity. Both are true, I think. You don't have to choose Camp Yann or Camp Geoffrey. Both are true. The thing is, it's important to be aware of the dangers and also keep an eye on the opportunities. The thing today is that nobody seems to agree on what to do next, what should be done. I mean, I think we all agree that pausing for 6 months was a very lame proposal, but what should governments do, for example? Because when we talk about technology that will impact humanity as a whole, a lot of people's lives are already influenced by it. What are you eating?
A strawberry with chocolate.
Oh my God. A chocolate-covered strawberry.
Yeah, I never do physical work. So today we are renovating the home, and the first thing you need to do is strip everything out. Yeah. So it was a really long day and a long night yesterday.
You. Yeah. There's a bit of chocolate on the lips. Yeah. But it's white chocolate, so it doesn't show.
No.
Nobody seems to agree on what exactly should be done, and so two European institutions stepped up, two different ones. It doesn't amaze me that it is it's European institutions, because compared to other parts in the world, like China, the US, Russia, specifically European institutions are very sensitive to anything that impacts digital technology, that impacts the daily lives of the citizens. For example, anything that has to do with privacy issues. So we have regulations and even a couple of laws, so that whenever a company or a person breaks these laws, they actually can go to jail or get a fine of a couple of €100,000. So there's a lot of awareness in European institutions. However, this week there were two separate ones that came out with the answer to what should governments do. So the first one was the Digital Markets Act. The Digital Markets Act has been entered into force in November 2022. I wasn't even aware of that. But it is now official. The new Digital Markets Act, DMA for short, the DMA rules make sure digital markets are fair by setting conditions for gatekeepers, like not using other companies' data without permission. That's familiar, right? So remember last week we talked about Reddit and Twitter complaining about that the content on their platforms has been used to train them. And before that, I think it was Getty Images and a couple of others. So the DMA is trying to counter that. So one of the rules is you're not supposed to use other companies' data to train your AI without permission. You're not supposed to force users to use certain apps or settings. And you're not supposed to track users without their permission for targeted ads. So it's not just AI specific, it's obviously also targeted to social media companies and others. That's why it's called the Digital Markets Act. However, it does have an impact. It kind of ties into Italy banning ChatGPT. That
Yeah.
was also because of which one is it? Not tracking users without their permission. So this is why ChatGPT specifically will offer some sort of a dark mode where whatever you're sharing as a response to questions, for example, is not saved anywhere.
Okay.
By the way, Bing, my steady boyfriend by now, is now available for everyone. So the app Bing, with including the creative mode, including this feature where you can ask it to create images using DALL-E, is now available for everyone. So it's.
But is it also an app, or is it only on the web?
I thought I think I'm talking about the app. However, the little Bing thing. Just like Clippy, 20, 30 years ago, is starting. The little Bing icon is starting to pop up in regular software on computers, like even in Excel, for example. So you can, a lot of Microsoft's regular software, like Microsoft Teams and Excel, are now being Bingified. But you have to summon it. You have to click on the little B icon and then it's summoned. But for example, if you're doing this typical to and fro with Bing, under the DMA rules, Bing is not supposed to use your data without your permission, for example. So that's one, DMA.
Hey, Timmy. Hey.
Hi, Timmy. That's only one. The second one is the Artificial Intelligence Act, so the AI Act. So there's two acts, Digital Markets Act and AI Act. And this will be the first comprehensive set of laws related specifically to AI regulation. This is closer to what I think are like copyright rules for generative AI. This AI Act, early versions were already around in like 2018. And what I liked about it is that it classifies AI and how dangerous it is into different layers. So they have this pyramid with a green base, and then there's a yellow layer, an orange layer, and a red layer. And in the green layer are AI applications like the AI that Gmail uses to detect spam earlier, or non-player characters in games. And then the yellow ones is generative AI, and then the orange. And then depending on the color, it's already laid out since 2018 how far the role of the government should go. So when it's like in the green, monitoring is fine. When it's in the yellow, it's monitoring, but also trying to enforce not laws, but like regulations or acts that the big players will have to agree on. But there's no like real law that. And then the more you get into the orange, that's where they want to enforce a number of rules. Like, for example, authenticity,
Privacy?
Yeah, the privacy, the focus on private data, but also that you have to be open transparency. You have to be transparent about who is behind this, what it has been trained on, what happens with the data. So that's when you go in the orange. And then the ones in the red, they should just flat out be prohibited. And those are the applications of AI where AI makes its own decisions, paperclip factory style, makes its own decisions, and these decisions are actually harming people's lives, so it can kill people. And the clearest example of the type of AI that should be prohibited, it's not prohibited yet, so it should be, I think, as fast as possible, is the AI that's being used on autonomous weaponized drones, which exist. Turkish, there's a Turkish brand that sells them. Chinese have them. And so whenever I see a picture of Putin shaking hands with Erdogan or with Xi Jinping, I hope they weren't talking about these weaponized drones, because that's another Black Mirror episode. You just tell it who they need to target, and then just like in the paperclip factory, you give it a task and it will accomplish the task.
Yeah.
So it cannot be stopped. It cannot be hacked. Nobody can intervene, and it will be very smart in trying to, avoid.
A few years ago, there was a video of it was fake, I think, but it was from the army with little drones, and they fly to your head,
And then I remember
and
that.
it was all the time, weeks that video came back, and I thought, wow.
Well, the drones that I'm talking about, they look like a small airplane.
Yeah.
Something like stealth. Do you remember these stealth planes? So they have this kind of gray shape. The only funny thing about them is that there's no cockpit.
Yeah.
So they are unmanned, and there are several versions of those, but there are already autonomous drones that are weaponized and that can, zoom in, use facial recognition, for example, to track someone, and to make sure that only this person gets shot and then not the person, their wife, for example, sitting next to them in the car. And they are available, they are for sale, they have been used, and they can make a big difference in a war like the one in Ukraine, I think, or Sudan, or whatever there's. That's the idea behind the second act that I talked about, the Artificial Intelligence Act, which has been around for a couple of years, but has now become more relevant because we're now actually seeing applications of these different layers of AI. For me, it doesn't make any sense to say, let's ban AI altogether, because then we would also ban the AI that keeps spam out of our inboxes. There's different layers to it, and then depending on how it's been assessed by, for example, this AI Act, what the level, the danger level is. According to the level, there are different things that the government should do, and that's how I think about it. Yeah, well, okay, let's move on to something completely different. Another discussion that we've been having a couple of times before, it's about music and copyright.
But once again, AI, so that's not different.
I can't help myself.
No, but it's actual, every day there's something new. So.
Well, it's been a good week for Ed Sheeran.
Okay.
Ed Sheeran. I think he had a lawsuit that has been dragging on for quite a few years. And earlier this week, he said that he would quit making music, so he would quit his music career. He's one of the most successful music artists on the planet. I think he's definitely in the top 5 together with Drake and who else would be there? I'll get back to Drake. So he's one of the most popular music artists. If you look at the streaming top 5, he's always in there, one of his songs. And he said, I'm just going to quit, stop. If I lose this lawsuit, I will just stop making music altogether. But he won. So what was the lawsuit about? It was about Marvin Gaye's, his song, Thinking Out Loud. That was a hit in 2014, so it's fine if you don't remember. Thinking Out Loud by Ed Sheeran. And Marvin Gaye's Let's Get It On, 1973. Now, the unique thing about this lawsuit was that it was not about copyright issues in the strict sense. So there was nothing in Ed Sheeran's song that was copied from Marvin Gaye's song. Nothing, not a single note. The lawsuit was about the fact that the whole vibe of the song reminded some people of Marvin Gaye's song. So what? I'm not sure if you have this link available. So he came out, I think, yesterday to read out some sort of a statement. And I think if you're an artist...
I'm obviously very happy with the outcome of the case, and it looks like I'm not having to retire from my day job after all. But at the same time, I'm unbelievably frustrated that baseless claims like this are allowed to go to court at all. We spent the last 8 years talking about 2 songs with dramatically different lyrics, melodies, and 4 chords, which are also different and used by songwriters every day all over the world. These chords are common building blocks which were used to create music long before Let's Get It On was written, and will be used to make music long after we are all gone. They are in a songwriter's alphabet, our toolkit, and should be there for all of us to use. I'm just a guy with a guitar who loves writing music for people to enjoy. I am not and will never allow myself to be a piggy bank for anyone to shake. I want to thank the jury for making the decision that will help protect the creative process of songwriters here in the United States and all around the world.
I think, well, it's very interesting, very interesting guy. But what he said about the building blocks, So it was literally about the vibe of a music. That reminds me of visual artists saying that Stable Diffusion or Midjourney stole their style. How deep, how deep do you want to go? To which level of which building blocks, which elements, which atoms of what makes an artwork? Do you want to go when you want to make claims about copyright? So he said they went too deep. I mean, these are 4 chords that are being used by everyone. And similar thing is being used versus OpenAI. That's my whole point. That was not, no, that's my, no, that's not, no, no,
That's
no.
my tiredness.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, I forgive you. I forgive you. You've been working hard.
I feel like a real man now.
So at Sheeran's case, I think if he had lost, this would have become a very dangerous precedent, not just for regular artists with their regular songs, but also for any generative AI company that would have become sitting ducks for anyone who thought, you know what, maybe I don't stand a chance to win. But he talked about 8 years. That's a lot of lawyer fees.
Yeah.
You can just wear someone down with a lawsuit, and then just hope they give up. It's not about winning. Sometimes it's not about winning. It's just about wearing someone down. But meanwhile, so Ed Sheeran is important. Drake is important, I think. Meanwhile, there's an AI music top charts, and the URL for that is aihits.co. So it's like the Billboard 50 or Top Up or whatever chart you're looking at. And so these are currently the most trending songs, and if we were just scrolling through it. Now, I'm old and I don't have any style of my own. There used to be, like, in the top 10, there were like 5 Drake songs, and they have now gone.
No, there's also AI song.
AI Drake.
AI Drake.
Let's listen to the number 1. Do you know who they are referring to, Lucci?
Winter's Cold.
That's Winter's Old Drake. If you were chilling on the couch with your best friends and this came on your Spotify chill out lounge playlist, would you have noticed that it was not a real Drake?
No. Yeah, when you know it, you hear
Well, you know. But it's getting harder every week. So aihits.co. So the number 2 was also a Drake song. I'm not sure. Sorry, you already closed your window. No, I just want to hear. The number 2 is called, that's the one that we were talking about last week, Heart on My Sleeve. The one that Universal script from the internet. So we could listen. So let's listen to it now.
Doesn't play.
It doesn't?
No,
Oh.
maybe SoundCloud.
I would be this track was not found. No, Universal found it again, obviously. So there's a whole chart of them, and that means that these things are being streamed, and as we mentioned last time, that people are earning money by generating AI that has been trained on lyrics by Drake and Drake's voice. On the other, they're not gonna get rich. I'm not sure if you're aware, but it takes a lot of streams before you can actually make a living of Spotify. On the other hand, maybe not, because they're bypassing record companies, and I think that Spotify, that for every dollar that flows to Spotify, like 70 cents flows to the record companies, not to the artists. It's more than half. So I wonder what the split looks like if you directly upload something and then it goes viral and it gets 1 million streams. There's no record company in between that takes like the lion's share of that. So it's going to change everything.
There's one DJ who I was working for. He started his own producer agency because of this reason.
Because of the split. It's an unfair split. It's going to be interesting because I think this is going to be the new music. Because obviously if music that is ending up in a top chart will be already optimized to what people like listening to. So it similarly to music. Music has been created to annoy us, to avoid annoying people. So it doesn't stand out in any way. It's very generic music.
Okay.
So maybe this will mean that we will get like this super generic music in the top charts, and I wonder what that will mean for how people listen to music. Maybe sometimes what you need is a little bit of generic music.
Yeah.
The Beatles. So the Beatles music, they have a huge catalog, right? And you can, I think the earliest examples of AI generated music had been trained on Beatles songs. That was like 1 year ago, and it sounded like shit. Really, it was not very good. Technically, it did all the things that a Beatles song would do, but if you would listen to it, it didn't have a heart.
Yeah.
It didn't have a soul, is what Casey Neistat would say.
A year ago, you would say, "Oh, this will be nothing."
No, it's not. It can't replace artists. Yeah. But now, someone trained an AI on leftover songs by the Beatles. So songs that were recorded during, I don't know, jam sessions, studio sessions, but never finished. So sometimes there's only like one chord or John Lennon trying something out, because that's usually how they came up with.
I think they trained it on. There's a documentary on Disney Plus, and it's 20 hours of behind the scenes and backstage, and maybe because their voices are really.
That could be, because I remember that someone got access to it. Could be the same project. Let's listen to one of those AI-generated songs that start up with...
What?
It's pretty good, huh?
What? Oh, wow. Yeah, this is crazy.
Only in 1 year's time, we came this far. This was actually very convincing, and I liked it. It. It's got everything. By the way, I looked up, so we now know that probably Universal has the rights to Drake songs. Who has the rights to the Beatles song? Well, mainly whoever inherited Michael Jackson's fortune. Michael Jackson bought the rights to all of the Beatles songs. So, when he was still alive. So that's where they sit. So I'm waiting for a reaction of whoever manages his estate to this. I don't know. So, would you react differently if you would know that you would still get a cut? Would you react differently if you would listen to this and then genuinely think that's actually good?
Not everything is about money, so...
Oh, yeah, no.
For creative people...
Yeah, but for like the Michael Jackson estate, it's probably about just like the Marvin Gaye estate, right? So,
but maybe they want to work together because they want to bring Michael Jackson back as a hologram or something like that with his voice.
Well, usually whoever inherits the rights to the music of an artist like Marvin Gaye or Prince or Michael Jackson, it's about money.
Bring me the money.
It's about the money.
Okay, it's about the money.
Because usually it's also like 20 people or 50 people, and then they all want their cut. So close sour grapes. But there's an article on Medium, which is also I linked to in my Substack. I just want to quote this to conclude this little this topic about AI creativity and then music and copyright. The quote is, "AI Drake will be remembered as the beginning of a new era, an introduction to a new age of AI music that we have yet to process and fully understand." I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember Neuralink?
Yeah, from that one guy.
I'm not going to mention his name. He is the one who shall not be mentioned.
I will not press the button then.
You can mention it. I mean,
okay, it's Elon Musk.
Yeah, him again.
Oh.
Yes. Now, the reason that I'm not a big fan of brain-computer interfaces is that I get very uncomfortable when you make an interface between what I call wetware, the brain, and hardware and software. I think it gets messy pretty fast. It's very hard, I think, to avoid infections. I also don't like the fact that it's very intrusive. You have to, drill a hole in someone's skull, or sometimes they actually tap into like one of the largest veins in the neck. So
and they are building also the surgeons, the robots.
Yes, to do this. I don't like the fact that it's intrusive.
Yeah.
I'm more a fan of what Apple does, for example, when they come up with monitoring devices. It's not an interface yet, but I like I still don't know how they will do it, but is that for people with diabetes, for example, with the Apple Watch, it can measure your blood sugar levels. I prefer those. It touches the skin. It doesn't break the skin. Now, there's been a reporting about another breakthrough in non-intrusive brain interfaces. It's called a semantic decoder, which can translate people's brain activity into streams of text. So it is an AI system, obviously, and it can translate what a person is thinking, but they're using like MRI. So you're basically... You get all these little sensors that get stuck to your head, and then it monitors your brain waves, which is non-intrusive, which I like a lot better. And so how is the AI trained? So actually, of course, the technology is like very hard to understand, but the way the logic behind it is pretty simple. What they do is they have someone inside the MRI listen to our podcast episodes, all of them in a row for 24 hours, I think, 15 hours. And then while that person is listening to it, they will monitor all of the brainwaves. So they know which brainwave corresponds to which topic and which words in the podcast. And then afterwards, when they have someone listen to a completely new podcast, but the AI doesn't know what the content of that podcast is, it can, based on the brainwaves of that person, pick out the topics that this new podcast is about. The downside is that it is very specific for that one person's brain. So I heard a lot of people on Twitter, I know, they would say like, this is an invasion of our privacy, as if someone would like stick all of these sensors. So it would work for that one person. We're still years, we're still not there, that you can have like a generic like cap, a thinking cap that you have to put on, and then it would be able to translate into text what you're thinking of. Obviously, the applications are clear. If for some reason someone cannot use human language to express themselves because they're paralyzed, locked in syndrome, the butterfly. There was this guy who could only move his eyes. He could blink, and that was all he could do.
Crazy.
And with this, of course, it would be able to see what they were thinking about. But it would take a rather long time to train the AI to link the language that they're listening to and that they're processing in their brain to the brain waves that it's. But I'm very enthusiastic about this one. But you now know why I don't like the idea of drilling holes in someone's head. By the way, the internet as a whole was launched 30 years ago.
Today?
No, earlier this week. Let me see. On the 30th of April, researchers at CERN launched the World Wide Web.
30 years.
It was 1993. That was when Tim Berners-Lee...
So I'm older than the internet.
You are. For once,
wow.
For once, you're older than...
That's crazy.
It's crazy, isn't it? So the initial idea, when Tim Berners-Lee and the rest of the team obviously launched it, was to provide a user-friendly way to access information on the internet. It was a big deal because they made the internet accessible to everyone, regardless of their technical expertise. Because The early versions of the internet were initially for military purposes. So ARPANET, which is like the predecessor of the internet, was developed to have a means of communication if, in case the regular communication means would have been bombed by the enemy. This was after the Cold War, and they thought if someone takes out Washington, can we somehow decentralize the important knowledge? And that's how they came up with decentralized, having different computers talk to each other.
Then it became centralized, and now we are looking back again to become decentralized.
I know. Eventually, you always need a middleman now. Yeah. But the World Wide Web, so using a browser, the earliest browser was called Mosaic, and then you had like Netscape, and you had the browser wars between Internet Explorer and the other ones. It was exciting. But it all started with the idea of making information available. By then, by the 90s, this network was available for universities, for example. I remember the first time I logged into something like that was in 1993. I was it was very primitive, but there was an interface where I was physically in the University of Antwerp's library, and I could log into a system where I could, in real time, consult the books that were available in the University of Leuven's library. Through the internet.
Yeah.
By the way, Belgium was pretty fast in implementing an internet-like network. It was called BNIX, B-N-I-X.
But now we are not that good with our internet. If I'm hearing from friends, Thailand and stuff.
Oh, sure. But we're still ahead of the United States, though.
Really?
Yeah, when it comes to bandwidth speeds, that's way better over here.
Yeah.
Bless the battle between Telenet and Proximus because of that we have pretty good bandwidth. So it's but the World Wide Web it used to be called the information superhighway, and now I'm thinking, that's cute. It's become like a mass surveillance network and an invasion of our privacy right now. And then now with AI, it's like the Paperclipalypse of whatever we're gonna call it. Back then, the whole idea was that if there is knowledge about any topic in the world, it should be available to anyone with a browser, without there being a gatekeeper saying, no, you can't read this, no, I cannot show you this. So it's cute. It's cute. In 30 years, everything changed. And the thing that worries me most is that access to the internet is now used by some governments to silence their population. Yeah. So India, for example, whenever there are protests against policies from the Indian government will actually just pull the plug and use this as a way to pressure the citizens into complying. So this is actually, there's a number of cases, but the one in India, it's actually used quite often. So you all be good citizens, or else we're going to turn off the lights. And with lights, I mean internet access. And that means that Russia does a similar thing. And even though these governments know that every time they flip the switch, it will cost their economy millions of rubles. In that case, they know full well, because just imagine, like, there's virtually no business that can work without internet access.
Yeah, also paying with your card.
Anything. No payment methods. There's so many things. GPS system. There's so many things that rely on internet. But
what I think is crazy that now some things I remember from then. I think I was 5 years old and everybody had a computer because of the internet. And then it was so exciting. Oh my God, the first computer. But it became mainstream.
What did you do the first time you went online? 4
floppy disks with games. Like crossing the road, like the highway. What was another game?
Lazy Larry.
Yeah, something like that.
But that was not internet.
No. But
those were games.
The internet that that was one thing that I was doing at school, and that
Mhm.
was because you were with friends. Oh, download that picture,
Porn, of course.
Yeah, picture.
And then you were on
Beautiful girl.
beautiful naked women.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the bandwidth was not what it was
No,
today.
it
You
was
wait
like-
for ages to.
Damn.
That reminds me of another blog post I wrote. So there's so maybe you can show it, because there's an image of the 4-byte burger. The 4-byte burger is pixel art. When you look at it, it's actually still pretty fresh. Well, this is only a small portion of it, so the whole thing. Yeah, you will. Yeah, that's another view on in my analytics. So every little bit counts. Oh no, I'm not even linking to the whole image. I apologize. We'll have to make do with this. So it's actually a vertical image of a hamburger. And if you look at it and the way it kind of pops, the color pops, and then the fact that it's pixelated is now cool again.
Yeah. Sure.
And you wouldn't believe that this was made in 1985. 1985. Wow. When were you born?
91.
So you weren't even born yet.
Yeah. It is like paint, like pressing one
tick,
spray,
tick, yeah.
tuck.
Yeah. So there's a YouTube channel, I don't know his real name, but the nickname is Ahoy. And so this image was created by an artist, so in 1985, by an artist called Jack Hager.
Wow.
On an early Amiga machine. And so the way the image was created in itself is just mind-blowing, because you only had 16 colors. It's a miracle that it already had colors, because the first computers I was working on, I didn't have any colors
so this
at
is
all.
The first digital art in history.
But what blew my mind was that this Amiga didn't have a hard disk. So this image was never saved. So the only thing that remains is a picture that was taken with a camera of the computer screen. And this picture was used to print the artwork in a magazine. So the image, the artwork itself is gone. There's only this print, let's say, a literal screen print.
Okay.
So that's one thing, the 4-byte burger. Now this YouTuber called Ahoy, he decided to recreate it pixel by pixel, and so his YouTube video explains how long it took him, and a very long time, basically how long it took him, and the decisions he had to make about how far he wanted to go into actually making a perfect imitation of the original. And the techniques he had to use. So it's he wanted to restore the artwork, and almost I would almost say like manually. It's always like manual work, and it took him a rather long time. So the video explains the whole process. He used different methods, but he wanted it to look exactly the way it would have looked on this Amiga 2000 in the year 1985. Very impressive.
Nice.
So he achieved authenticity. Not perfect authenticity, but he was pretty. And what I like about this is that when you talk about art, it's about the artist, it's about the end product, but it's also about the process in creating it. And that's another blog post that I wrote about an artist called Stealthy. So similarly, I don't know what the real name of Stealthy is. He has a YouTube channel, and so his nickname is Stealthy because he creates digital art that are imaginary selfies of himself in the future. So he created a character, and then his art is this character taking selfies in the future. Now there's a Vox magazine created a video of Stealthy showing what his creative processes when he uses AI to create an image that he's happy with. I'm just trying to see which one he uses, but the whole thing, so he wanted to create a realistic selfie of his character, Stealthy, as a boxer, in a pose that was once used by, some of the images we're showing right now, you must have seen him on social media because he had this series of Stealthy taking selfies with like the Romans or the Egyptians. So they went viral. So it's the same artist who did that. So how exactly does he create these things? And so it's a very long process. I was amazed. He starts with a sketch of things, and then he feeds the sketch to, I think it's Midjourney, I'm not sure. Long story short.
Stable diffusion.
Stable diffusion, great. So long story short, it took him 17 hours of back and to and fro between him and stable diffusion until he had an image that he was happy with. And I think that's super interesting, this video. And I always get back to the same point. What is art? It's when that's one of the hard things about being an artist is that knowing when to stop. So you're working on a totally, that must sound very familiar.
Yeah.
So you've been spending hours and hours, and you're still not happy with the result. And what's that like with you? Do you sometimes just give up?
No,
You never give up?
No. The nights are good.
The nights are good.
It's quiet. Nobody calls me, so that's really I'm focused.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I have Futurama or Simpsons or and just by listening to it and smiling when something funny happening, then magic happens. I start designing and it's good.
So you need to be relaxed and focused in order to. I highly recommend watching this video. The title is An AI Artist Explains His Workflow. And it's published on Vox, V-O-X, Vox Magazine's YouTube channel. Oh, we're almost there. My God, I'm going over time. So what do we have time for? Oh, remember Will Smith?
Yeah.
Eating meatballs. There's a new one. Oh, my God.
Yeah? Really?
Stuff of nightmares. So it's a beer ad. It's a beer ad. We don't need the music, by the way. The music is just... a song by Smash Mouth. We don't need it. You have to watch it. So it's called Synthetic Summer. It's made by Private Island .tv, an advertising agency. And they created basically an ad for beer. And it starts pretty normal. So it's AI-generated videos. And it looks a lot like a typical backyard barbecue, American barbecue, where people are holding beers, some of them in a can, others in a bottle. Sometimes the can changes into a bottle, and sometimes the bottle changes into a glass. And then it gets weird. So then there's fire involved.
Wow.
There's I don't know. And then... I don't want to spoil it too much,
so funny.
But things get out of hand pretty quickly.
Genius.
That was, Well, we'll just keep trying. And then the very last thing I want to talk about is HackerCast. It's probably, if this is good, if we're going to listen to a podcast that's been generated by AI. So if this is good enough, we can just stop doing all the effort of coming to the studio every Friday afternoon and doing this. So Hacker News. Hacker News is a curated source of tech-related news. So there's an AI is let loose. I think it's LangChain and GPT-4. And then synthesizes it, converts it into... a podcast scenario, and then they're using Amazon's Polly to convert text to speech, and then the result is published as a podcast. So let's have a listen to HackerCast.
Episode 2.
Welcome to HackerCast, an AI-generated podcast summary of Hacker News. I'm your host, GPT-4. Today is April 28, 2023. Let's get started. Part 1, Favorites. 1. Automakers are starting to admit that drivers hate touchscreens from Slate.com.
No.
The topic at hand is the automotive industry's
It's not very
recent shift
good.
away from touch screens and back towards buttons and knobs. A delightful development for those frustrated with the distractions and
No.
learning curve
No.
associated with these.
If it's short form video,
It's
for
1
example-
hour. It's
Yeah.
1 hour.
If it's short form, then it's okay.
Mm.
Then you can have it. But now,
Maybe
no.
to fall asleep. If
Yeah.
you want to fall
Yeah.
asleep and have like the most
Robot
boring
voice.
robot voice talking about hacker news.
Yeah.
Well, that's all, folks. We'll get back to you guys in exactly 1 week with
Yeah.
more Chaos and Amazement. Thanks for listening.
Don't forget to subscribe, and if you like it, bring a like to the video. Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.